What is the I study animation so I can draw my own porn of other majors. A buddy became a pharmacist because he loved his drugs. He wanted to know them, not just do them. He's still good at both. I studied architecture so can design a house I will never be able to afford on a site that doesn't exist with materials that come from science fiction. I study graphic design so I can design a fake diploma to hang on my wall when I don't graduate because of my crippling depression. Not exactly a major, but I'm a criminal justice major, and I took my county's Citizens Police Academy to learn more about the police department and build my arsenal. Apparently a guy who took it years ago was a rapist who was taking it to learn how sex crimes investigations work to avoid getting caught. I study physical therapy so I can unduck my body. Seriously. Though. I started chewing properly with both sides of my mouth to avoid future pain because of my major. I study music theory so I can make common practice era arrangements of mime songs to be performed in a professional setting. I studied communications because having autism means half the time I don't understand social cues or if someone is trying to hint something. Communications studies save me honestly. I study theoretical mathematics so that no one will question me when I go off to live alone in Siberia. Late here, but I earned an environmental science degree so I can truly see how devastated our ecosystems are, all while not be able to make any significant impact. Chef. Started cooking because I'm a fat kid hidden in a skinny body, and I realized if I stuck with it I could literally make myself anything I can dream up. Side effects of growing up poor, I suppose. Not my major, but for my elective. I took 2 semesters of Spanish. Main reason is that my friend used to have a collection of anime. But all the subs are in Spanish. He knows Japanese, so it's not a problem for him. But I don't know why he downloaded Spanish subs. It was such an irrational whim. Turns out I didn't really like anime that much. But at least puedo hablar español ahora. I study accounting because my sisters keep trying to steal my dead parents' estate from me and I need to outsmart them. I am studying sociology to try and become a better writer and create a more realistic feeling environment and stories. I studied kinesiology so I could turn myself into a great athlete. Now I have a degree in a hyper-competitive field with limited paying jobs and an injury that pretty much ended sports for me. I study anthropology so I can go down to South America, pound ayahuasca and call it participant observation. I'm in biological sciences for a few reasons. Since it's kind of a nice generalist undergrad major, I can find actual studies to disprove my homeopathic mom's ravings, not all of them. But her previous go-to argument of "there's been studies defo" doesn't fly now that I actually know how to read those things. I can identify more cool plants and animals and rhyme off a billion facts about them. Take your date to the zoo. Trust me, they love it. All my weird botanical knowledge makes me better at keeping plants alive. Smiley face. I study engineering so I can build a ducking Gundam and finally be a pilot and get the girl. I study anthropology so I can explain the difference between anthropology and paleontology when people ask what I'm majored in. I study history so I can sound smart to myself at parties, but end up annoying everyone else. I study software engineering so I can make stupid money, so hopefully girls will finally like me. I studied respiratory therapy to take care of my mom because she has one lung. She actually pushed me into it, but once I realized how severe pulmonary hypoplasia is, I ducking hit the goddamn books, and now I'm a full-fledged respiratory therapist at a pulmonary-focused hospital. No matter when it happens, I want to be ready. I study materials engineering so I can smelt my own swords. I study physics so I can invent a lightsaber. I study electrical engineering so I can build all the electronics you buy at the store for 2 times the cost and a lot more stress and effort. I've heard of Python and IP addresses, so I'm qualified for conducting cyber warfare countermeasures. I took a lot of women's studies electives in my undergrad so I could win arguments with feminists. 5 years later I have a much greater appreciation for feminism and gender politics. I also took social working with a friend to pick up girls. It worked. That program, at least at our school, was almost comically self-righteous. Two normal-looking dudes who knew their second and third wave feminist discourses were pretty sought after. In a bizarre twist of fate, I gained an appreciation of what it must feel like to be a woman in engineering. I took a business degree, so I know what the duck is going on in the office note. My actual job is for computer majors. But at least management can't BS me. I studied photography to shoot naked women. Bought naked dolls instead because they were cheaper. I studied anthropology so I could learn how people work. No one gave me the manual growing up. So I figured a formal academic study would help. It did. This is gonna sound retarded, but I study writing so I can write a blog full of writing advice to myself with the hope that it will make me a better writer. So I have a rare condition in which I can't feel pain. Congenital insensitivity to pain. This caused me to get injured a lot. And sometimes I didn't even know. I also had a tendency to break my bones often. After I graduated college, I became a radiologist. The person who reads X-rays, so I could read my own X-rays. Also, yes, I do have bad handwriting. TLDR. I became a doctor to read my own X-rays. I like killing people, so I'm in forensics as a blood spatter analyst. I hope someone gets this. I got a certification so that my opinion, skills, and thoughts will be absolutely discarded and ignored. I study genetics so I can discover how to make cat girls. Or for the more ethical route, mechanical engineering. I study applied mathematics so I can count how many watermelons I have after buying 5 apples, 12 pies, and 20 chocolate bars. I study psychology because I'm crazy and trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Every psychology major. I study physics so that I can say I study physics drops out after the first year when it becomes clear he's actually gonna have to do some maths instead of just sitting around pretending to philosophize about cats in boxes. Studying geology so they can identify rare or higher demand rocks for their ETSC jewelry store. I study philosophy to deal with my constant existential crisis, ES, and reconcile the trauma religious upbringing provided. I study arts and design so I can keep drawing idiotic doodles on my notebooks, but I can finally call them part of the process. My buddy honestly did biochem so he could get a job at a lab that made research hallucinogens. He was smart enough to do anything. He did graduate. But last I heard, he just sleeps on his mom's sofa. There is this student who sues our university's law faculty every time he gets a failing grade. Does that count? I studied medieval history to make my D&D games more immersive. Didn't work. They are just weirder and have a completely different approach to religion. I study urban planning to make more interesting cities as a DM in D&D. I study medieval history to make more realistic conditions in my campaign for D&D. I study witchcraft and wizardry to better understand verbal components of spells cast in D&D. I study evolutionary biology to better understand the rise and fall of stable equilibria in ecosystems and how it interplays with individual species to come up with more interesting fantasy worlds in D&D. I study chemistry to come up with clever potions in D&D. I study philosophy because I want people to think I'm smart when I use fancy words like ontological and epistemological. Coming from a poor background, I studied accounting so I can prepare my own taxes and achieve financial independence. Adulting goals. I studied veterinary medicine and technology so I could figure out if cats are really furkins. I'm attending the fire academy so I can slide down the fire pole. That was literally the deciding factor for me. During my math degree, I chose a module on stochastic processes so I could learn how to beat casinos. Fascinating as it was, the only useful thing I learned is that casinos always win in the long term. Study child development so I can raise my children properly. Still gonna mess that up. Because things don't always go as planned. Lots of variables. I studied audio engineering so I can record my own shitty singing voice. Auto-tune to hell and back. I study architecture so that I can build my own swanky house. Only after did I realize you need money for actually funding projects. I studied education so that I could find out what teachers talked about in a teacher's lounge. I study physics so I can determine how high of a building I'll need to jump off when I can't find a job. I studied Japanese simply so that I could watch anime without subtitles. Now I'm certified in the language and looking to move to Japan in the next year or so. XD. I'm a chem major and I would love to try my hand at making some drugs, but haven't really thought too much into that. However, I'm a criminal justice minor, so I'm trying to learn how to get away with doing drugs. It's working so far. I study machining because I'm interested in making suppressors, probably just got myself on a list. I study computer science for web design. Everyone and their mothers in web design just copies and pastes code. I studied well-being so I can avoid stress at work. I studied psychology so that I can get out of depression on my own. I study psychology so I can handle my own mental health issues. I know a good amount of people, myself included honestly, that benefit greatly from doing psych. I'm an English Lit major because I live for the look on people's faces when they realize they got sausage instead of pepperoni. My friend told me he was gonna study criminology so that he knows what's up when he turns into a criminal. I study drawing and painting so I can unashamedly look at and draw naked beautiful women posing for me. And the more beautiful I make them look, the more they want to pose for me. Fine art. I studied printing to figure out how to make stickers to put up all over town, and it wound up turning into my career. I'm studying programming so I can make that genius app that for some reason none of the programmers I know will make, free up front, but get a share in the profits. I studied clinical physiology specializing in cardiology. I scanned myself one day and found a 3.5 centimeters hole in my heart. Got surgery, now won't have heart failure at 45. I studied design so any venture I start always has a sick website. I like this question. It's like everyone's picked a character in an RPG that has a perk which is only really useful in certain situations. I joined a class named BPA, or Business Professionals of America, back in high school to use their editing Macs to make my own shirts to sell. While in the class I learned basic marketing, how to pitch your concepts to others as well as getting to travel. If I didn't get busy getting my RN in college I probably would have opened up a shop, haha. I learned how to record and mix my own band so I wouldn't have to shell out thousands for an album. Ended up costing me thousands, but I guess now that I'm recording clients I'm technically ahead. I studied aerospace engineering so I can say it's not rocket science. Trust me, I know whenever someone messes up anything at all. I study behavioral neuroscience to better understand my own mental illness vs. a normal brain. Unintentionally, I got a degree in information technology and now I understand the technology behind digital music production and troubleshooting for music recording and live sound systems when problems arise. Pretty handy for someone who quit working in IT for a career in music. If you're wondering why I got a degree in IT only to quit to do music, understand that I had Asian tiger parents and professional music was something I had kind of stumbled into. They are strongly against me doing music professionally to this day, despite the fact that I'm quickly gaining traction and finding success and doing it full-time for the last 4 years. Intentionally, I'm learning Japanese so that one day I'll eventually be able to watch anime without subtitles, know what items I'm trying to buy and import from Japan without translation, play non-localized Japanese games, and so I can utilize Vocaloid software in a language other than English. I'm also slowly learning about electrical circuitry so that I rebuild/modify guitar pedals and guitar electronics, and one day eventually make my own. I already solder my own instrument cables since given my situation it ended up being more cost effective. Also learning about circuitry so that I can build and program my own cross-platform arcade fight stick and maybe one day build an arcade cabinet.